Thank you, Dr. Pavel. Good afternoon, our dear AQRA family. On behalf again of the AQRA leadership team, I am so grateful that you have joined us today. And for this colloquium, number 4, we have our speakers, Dr. Arceli Rosario, a professor and chair here in the Education Department of IS, and currently the president of AQRA and the co-editor alongside Dr. Safari Wambaleka of the SAGE Handbook of Qualitative Research in the Asian Context, to present their presentation titled Designing and Conducting a Photo Voice Study. Her co-presenter is Professor Carthy Joy Aguilion, who is currently serving Mountain View College as a faculty. She is currently working on her dissertation, which focuses on the gendering of tourism language for her PhD degree in English studies at University of the Philippines, Diliman. And also we have 4 faculty from Cebu Technological University in Argao campus who will be presenting their proposal. It's an output in the recently held training on Photo Voice last week. We have Dr. Ariel Ramos, who is currently serving the CTU Argao campus as the Dean of the Graduate School of Education and Management. And he is currently working on a photo voice study with professors from Mindanao State University and University of North Carolina, Greensboro, USA. And from the same university, we also have Dr. Teresita Cleopolda Sarile, who is an associate professor and a chairperson of the Extension Services Office. And she is an advocate for empowerment of marginalized sectors, of which her doctoral dissertation became instrumental in forging partnership among their university and the Department of Labor and Employment in the Regional Office 7, and that led to the upliftment of the beneficiaries from poverty. The third from out of 4 authors of the proposal is Dr. Melanie Albarracin, who is the current Dean of the Student Affairs of the same university, a champion of maximizing information technology to promote ease in doing business among student clienteles. And the last but not the least, Professor Maribel Glinogo, who is a faculty of the College of Education of the same university in Cebu. She believes in the critical role of administration and supervision in the transformation of learners into community assets for nation building. And she is currently working on her dissertation as well. So ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our speakers to present the title Designing and Conducting a Photo Voice Study.
All right.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this colloquium on photo voice. I was tasked to briefly talk about the history, some theoretical grounding, distinctive features, and probably later when to do the photo voice study. So let's start with the definition. Photo voice is a process by which people can identify, represent, and enhance their community strengths and concerns through photographs. It entrusts cameras to the hands of people to enable them to do 2 things, and that is to act as recorders, but more importantly, as potential catalysts for change in their own communities. Photo Voice started in 1992 when Boris and Wang conducted a study that looked into the reproductive health of women in 2 counties in Zhejiang and also Luliang in the Yunnan province of China. There were 62 women who participated in this study. They were between 18 to 56 years old. They were married and single, some single, and with no formal education. And if ever they had formal education, it was only, I think, up to 10 years of schooling. Their economic standards ranged from good, middle, and poor, and they represented at least 50 villages of the province. All 62 women during the study were given cameras, and they also underwent photography training, and they were asked to do only one thing, and that is to take pictures or document their daily realities, their everyday experiences, which of course included their problems, their concerns, and their hopes. And the photos became basis for their conversations, for the many conversations that followed among these participants. And they talked about how this resonated with the issues that have been brought up by the pictures, how solutions to the problems can actually be done from their end, and how authorities can help them solve their problems. The photos were shown in a photo exhibit, and policymakers were all invited to the exhibit because the aim of the exhibit was to primarily influence policy decisions about important issues surrounding the lives of these women, such as daycare, girls' education, and even midwifery. These issues are much vital to women's health, but otherwise these issues are invisible to male policymakers. So what Wang and Boris did just showed that community people have the expertise and insight regarding their own communities, and that these things, their insights and expertise, are lacking from professionals and outsiders. I'm going to show you one picture that made it to the exhibit. It's this. This is titled Hoeing Corn. And a lot of women participants resonated with this photo because the photo was also their experience when families tried to finish seasonal cultivating, when their workload was so heavy, and when there was no one to leave the children behind, especially these babies. Mothers were forced to bring their babies to the field, and most often their babies get sick because of this. And the photograph triggered women's discussion of their burdens and their needs. So you may ask, in what theories is Photovoice anchored? Photovoice is anchored on three very important theories. You can see them on the screen: empowerment education, feminism, and documentary photography. In Empowerment Education by Paulo Freire, the assumption is that oppression exists and education is key for liberation. So there are two propositions in this theory. First, oppression exists, such as there are discourses, there are socioeconomic and political factors that keep people down, and when they are down, they are oppressed. But actually, they can liberate themselves when they use personal and also social strategies. But you may ask, why focus on oppression? Because oppression is dehumanizing. To be fully human, we must have control over who we are, over what we think, and over what we want to become. And how is empowerment done? It is said that empowerment is done through education, but this is a special kind of education because this is bringing to the table issues that people see as central to their lives and asking questions, always asking questions about the problem. So for example, why does this problem exist? What harm does this problem do? What can be done to solve this problem? And who can help solve the problem? Now that the problem is identified and it has been realized that the problem cannot be solved in the individual level, a dialogue between those who can help solve the problem or even shed light to the problem should be started. Then talking about the problem and even identifying solutions to the problem will take place. But talking about the problem will influence the way in which the solutions to the problems will be done. And in the same way, how the solutions are done will also inform thinking and reflecting on the problem, and the process can go on. That is empowerment education. Second, we have feminism. Feminist theory views women as authorities of their own lives, and women can construct their own knowledge about women according to their criteria as women. What feminism would like to highlight here is that the everyday realities of women who are also at the time of the study and even probably now belong to a marginalized group matter. So they talk about their everyday realities, and these realities are taken as legitimate. The third is documentary photography. And as a philosophical frame, this documentary photography posits that ideas can be portrayed to pictures. And pictures are believed to portray the social and the mental wellness of both the subjects of the study and the society in which they are a part of. So these, the history and the theoretical grounding, these theories are all influence some features in the photo voice. Namely, photo voice is grounded on a critical issue. The community is involved in identifying the problem and generating solutions, because photo voice is participatory, and the photos and the narratives that participants generate become the sources of data. Photo exhibits are staged, and policies responsive to the issues addressed by the Photo Voice project are crafted. So when do we do Photo Voice? We do Photo Voice when we want to empower marginalized groups in the community. Marginalized means they do not have enough access to knowledge, to some decisions, to some networks, and to some resources. And we want to do Photo Voice when we want the marginalized group to identify their own problems and generate their own solutions. This will highlight that the everyday realities of this marginalized group matter, and their knowledge of the situation is always acknowledged. And third, when we want to call for individual and community change, we would want to use Photo Voice. And this change will come in actions at the personal and the social level. I'm now going to give the time to Ma'am Rosario.
Thank you, Joy. And this part that I'm going to share is on the designing. How do we design a photo voice study? We are following the 4-phase photo voice design from Wang and Boris, and we made some modifications. So this preliminary stage is not included in the 4-phase. These are steps that you take before you do phase 1. And what are these preliminaries? You prepare a proposal, just like what you do when you are conducting any research study, right? And then you look for funding. Why funding? Because the idea in Photo Voice is you provide cameras. Now, that was the idea during the time of Wang and Boris, and even in the early part. But this time, maybe you will ask, is that a need? My participants have their cell phones. Well, you may not give them cameras if they can use their cell phones. But if you are involving participants that do not have any means to take pictures, then you have to look for funding. Get an ethics review board approval, secure approval from gatekeepers. And I'm now talking about who are those in the community that must give permission so you can conduct a study. So maybe if this is a barangay or a village, then you go to the barangay leaders, okay? If it's a school, then you go to the principal or to the president. Create an advisory committee. Now, who are these who can qualify to the advisory committee? We suggested, when I say we, I'm referring to my co-authors, my daughter, and also another colleague, Dr. Dumukmat. And we suggested that this can be a community leader, somebody who is an expert in ethics, somebody who is an expert in the topic. All right, and then you recruit participants. Now we go to phase 1. Phase 1 is called implementing method and analysis. We suggest 3 steps here, or 3 tasks that you must do. First is the orientation, and you are going to do 3 types of orientation. The first orientation is you orient the participants regarding Photo Voice, how to do Photo Voice, and a little of its philosophical grounding, and also the concepts such as when to use and what are the distinctive features, just like what Joy told us. Then we train the participants how to use the camera, how to take photos, and ethical considerations in taking photos. And next, we orient the participants what kind of photos to take. We give them a theme. For example, in the case of Wang and Boris, they asked the participants to take photos regarding the spirit of their everyday lives. So that's the instructions they gave. Take pictures about the spirit of your everyday lives. And the next step here is taking photos. So after you gave your participants the theme of the photos that they are going to take, you give them time. It can be 1 day, but of course that's very short. In the case of Wang and Boris, you know, the data gathering lasted for 12 months, and each month they gave their participants a 36-roll film. It was during those days when the taking of pictures was not digital. And then every month they come together to discuss the best photos. So it can be 1 day, it can be 3 days, it can be 1 week or 2 weeks or 1 month, depending on the time available to you and the researchers. And then the participants conceptualize, okay, you give them the theme, you ask them now to take photos. This is the time that you pair your participants so that the discussion can start. So the pair can ask themselves, so what kind of pictures are we going to take? And then they take as many pictures as they can, and then they converse again. They have a dialogue, which of those so many pictures they are going to select. And then you conduct periodic debriefing with the participants. This is the time you ask them, what problems do you have? Do you have problems with your cameras? And during this time, problems like we do not have money to attend the meetings, and we do not have somebody to take care of our children, etc., etc. So that's phase 1. Remember, orientation, taking photos, and conducting periodic debriefing. By the way, do not worry about this one. We are going to share our PowerPoint in the AQRA FB page. Phase 2 is participatory analysis, critical reflection, and dialogue. Step 1 is that the participants will select among the so many, they select their best photos. And in our case, several authors gave different, like how many pictures, but in our case, we ask our participants to choose the best 5 for each theme. So if you have 1 theme, best 5. If you have 2 themes, best 5 photos for each theme. And then the photo presentation and interpretation, which can be done in small groups or in large group. When I say small groups, it can be like you have, shall we say, you have 15 participants, you divide them into 5. So one group, 5 participants. So they can discuss the photos in that small group. Or it can be, you can discuss the photos in the whole group. Like if you have 10, 15 participants, all of you coming together. There is a disadvantage though, because it will take so much time in the presentation and interpretation, and of course, discussion that follows. Then the researchers conduct the observation. The researchers conduct the in-depth interview. And then the researchers write analytic memos, observation notes, and methodological notes. Analytic memos here is another term for theoretical notes. So you can make 3 types of notes. And what are these? Theoretical notes or analytic memos, observation notes, and methodological notes. And then also, the researchers write the story of each participant based on the in-depth interview and also on the pictures. And then data analysis after the photo presentation and interpretation. The participants come together and organize their photos according to themes. So that's phase 2. Phase 3 is, this is now the time that the researchers hold a photo exhibition. And the ideal way to do that is to invite the community with the community leaders and the people, so they can see the photos, the themes, the explanations. Then present the findings in research conferences, write and publish research articles. Those are the ways to disseminate findings. This is the last one, advocating policy. So the researchers lobby with policymakers to draft and implement policies. And then, of course, at the end, they will conduct the final debriefing with their participants, and they will get to know what went well and in what areas they can improve, so that the next time the researchers do another study, then there will be improvement. I will show you how photo interpretation, presentation and interpretation is done, as I said, in small groups or in large groups. And during this time, the researchers should invite the advisory committee and or community leaders. It is good that community leaders will be there, because it is during this time when they make some suggestions that, for example, oh, maybe that picture, we do not show that, okay? It will put our community to bad light. All right, so photos can be printed and or projected onto a screen during the photo presentation and interpretation, and the participants show their photos and tell the stories behind the photos. How do they tell the stories behind the photos? There are different frameworks. There are several, but here today we are presenting one, and this comes from Wallerstein and Bernstein. Showed. What is showed? Showed, each letter here stands for something. S for what do you see in this photo? During this time, you just state, the participant just states what's in the picture. H, what is happening? What is the context of that photo? O, how does this photo relate to our lives? W, why does this strength or this problem exist? E, how can we be empowered? And D, what can we do to solve the problem? For E, how can we be empowered? We advise our participants to focus on personal call for action, individual call for action, like what will you do given this strength or given this problem? But the D is on the community level. What can the community do to solve the problem? So it is a call for social or community action. All right, so that is shown. So these are the detailed explanation. We are giving you this detailed explanation to you, so this can serve as your guide. Now for the data analysis, there are three approaches. The data analysis done by the researchers themselves. Data analysis involves following the selecting the photo. Okay, so there are three approaches. The data analysis can be done by the researchers themselves, or by the participants themselves, or by the participants and researchers. And how do you analyze the data? You select the photos, you contextualize, and then you codify. And when you analyze the photos, the participants write the title, the caption of the photo, and then they also have the showed framework. Okay, so here is a sample of a program that researchers can use during the, during the photo exhibition. And this one, the next ones, I'm showing you pictures of how a photo exhibit can be done. This one was a study conducted by my daughter, Arceli Rosario, and she studied hypertensive patients. And so during the photo exhibit, there's this one big tarp where all the photos were organized according to themes. Health practices is one research question. Socioeconomic determinants, that's also another research question. So for health practices, like what are the health practices of hypertensive patients? And so you'll find there the themes and pictures under the themes. So this tarp was placed in a strategic place in a municipal building, but and this one stayed there for quite a time, so that as people come, they are able to see. during the photo exhibit, because there were, I think, 14 barangays involved, each barangay had one section where they displayed their photos. And so this one is an example of a study I did with Joy about a post-Yolanda youth. So this is an example. The participants show their photos, and there is a caption, and there is also, I mean, a title of the picture, like the pink flower, and there is a caption. And this, they do it like this when they show their best photo. This is another example of best photo. There's a title of the photo, and there's also a caption of the photo. These pictures show how advocating policy happens. So in the case of my daughter, since her study was on hypertensive patients, she, with the local government unit, crafted policies. After the photo exhibit, they crafted policy. One of the policy was called POSO, which is an acronym, POSO program. And this program was for hypertensive patients. And then there's another program. And okay, so those are examples of the different steps of Photovoice. Now, we will give now the time to one group. We conducted a Photovoice study on March 2 to 4 in collaboration with StudyPlex, with Dr. Leo Aberion. We had 8 groups. The results were very amazing. For the interest of time, we chose only one group. And what they're going to show is what to say, what to show, what to do during a photo exhibition. Okay, so we'll now give the time to Dr. Ariel and his group.
All right. Greetings from Argao, Cebu. Good day to everyone who is with us this afternoon. I will be sharing our output as mentioned by Dr. Rosario. So this is our output in the recently conducted training on Photovoice. Okay, I hope it can be seen.
Yes, we can see.
All right, so I'll continue.
Dr. Ariel, you can take until 5:45.
Oh, okay, Doc. All right. So the title of this paper is all about Magtutudlo og ang pandemya, the teacher and the pandemic. This is about survival qualities of teachers in the bondage of COVID-19. With me are the following: Dr. Sarile, Dr. Albarracin, and Ms. Maribel Grinogo. All right. Now, just would like to emphasize on the 5 best photos that we have as part of the synthesis. These are the COVID qualities that we encountered in this particular presentation. Now, let us all be reminded that this study may not be new to all of us who are around. For after all, it has been written already in Ecclesiastes 1:9 that there is nothing new under the sun. However, what is significant in this study is to allow us to be reminded that God has and will always be providing the things we need in our constant struggles in life, even in the greatest adversity that we experience, like the COVID-19 pandemic. So this Photovoice study will remind us of the story of Job in the Old Testament, in the Bible, of whom we know as a wealthy man living in the land of Oz, and he was has extensive flocks. Now he was blameless and upright, but later on Satan, the adversary, in this case the pandemic, the COVID-19, the adversary appears before us, before God in the context of Job, and he was asked to be tested. All right, so today we are in one of the greatest adversities of our times. This is what we call the COVID-19 pandemic, which actually resulted to the implementation of lockdown by many governments across business to healthcare and even to education, according to Aswarubia and Orkanya in 2020. Clearly, this disrupted the fundamental structure of imparting institutional education like never before, according to DECA. And consequently, this resulted to the abrupt shift of educational landscape from face-to-face to flexible learning. However, disguised only in the name of flexibility, the reality in the shifted educational setting actually greatly depended on the availability of the internet to conduct online instruction, of which, according to Tan, Chan, and Norisan in 2021, online instruction has been one of the major key delivery methods in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic due to closures of schools around the world. However, with the introduction of online instruction as well as work from home setting, it turned out that tasks have piled up for the teachers, like those in higher education institutions whose function for delivery of instruction is just one of the many other relevant functions, such as research, extension, and even in an administrative function. Hence, in order to meet the demands of work, in many cases, there are multiple gadgets used to attend multiple functions and even meetings at the same time, which in many cases as well, even go beyond break time periods. So in the light of these facts, these teachers are experiencing oppression as they struggle while being pushed to move forward in their instructional delivery, despite of all the uncertainties in the new learning system as a result of the pandemic, of which on top of these are the rest of the functions required of them to perform. So simply while exploring for the new modalities as the educational landscape transition into the now normal, it is also an incontestable fact that teachers are experiencing oppression in the form of mental pressure or distress. So this phenomenon existed prior to the COVID-19 pandemic and has gotten worse, according to Lizana in their study. All right. So on the other hand, it is always evident also that in struggles caused by the oppression, there are also evidences to prove of surviving the obstacles as portrayed in several cases in history of many countries across the world. So due to the personal qualities the individuals possess, such as those reported by Ziegler and the others in 2013. So along with this, through a Photovoice study using the showed framework of Wallerstein and Bernstein, in gathering the raw data and the data analysis using the framework of Braun and Clark, the research called Magtutudlo og ang Pandemya, the teacher and the pandemic, survival qualities of teachers in the bondage of COVID-19, it was made. The research study focuses on one, determining the positive personal qualities of teachers amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, and that made them successful in everyday struggle as they face their realities. So the findings reveal that there are actually 5 emerging themes of positive personal qualities. Collectively, they are called COVID qualities. COVID for creative, optimistic, versatile, inventive, and devoted. All right. So the best picture for theme 1, that is being creative, you can see there a teacher, lights, camera, action with a caption: "I am the best instructional material for my class, and I can always be an actress to creatively deliver my lessons." So you will see there a teacher trying to make a recorded video lecture. So you'll see what you see front of camera with someone facilitating. The background is covered with green cloth, most probably due to editing purposes. The teacher is doing a recorded video lecture. So how does this relate to our lives? In some cases, when the routines are disrupted due to unforeseen events, teachers need to be resilient and creatively navigate to continue with what is expected, and that is to continue instructional delivery. Why does this problem, or why does this strength exist? This situation existed due to the pandemic, as we all know. However, development, utilization of creativity, so this is the positive part, provided an alternative way for teachers to continue instructional delivery. So how can we be empowered? Teachers can begin to look on what existing potentials to navigate the uncertainties in their work. What can we do to solve the problem? Teachers can be provided with assistance in forms of personality development, so as well as tangible supports being critical for the delivery of instruction in the new normal. So here are some of the themes that we have under creative theme. Sub-theme, we have getting creative for students engagement. We title this photo as Kahoot Your Answer. So we asked a teacher about this, and he said physical class interaction is fun, yet I realized there are also ways to make online learning interaction fun. So using a particular app for students interaction. Here you can see embracing digitalization. So this is all about the teacher caught in the middle. She said, I am caught in the transition of educational landscape because she was about to be at the edge of her career as a teacher. Thus, I need to hang my old ways and accept that this is not the now normal. Right? So these are the two themes under, or some themes under creative. So to continue, I will give you to Mom Melanie.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. So for the theme optimistic, this is having the courage and strength to look for alternative ways for instructional delivery and the ability to recognize reality constraints, then using these constraints to aspire for probable better outcomes. The best photo for this part shows the clouds as seen from the campus ground. The image is entitled My Bukas Pa with the caption, Every cloud has a silver lining. A silver lining is a sign of hope or a positive aspect in an otherwise negative situation. The phrase is often seen as part of the proverb written in the Bible. In this thing, the showed framework is detected for S, or what you see here. The school is closed due to the pandemic. It's also covered with dark clouds. Despite the absence of people around, the plants, the grass, and trees are still green. For H, due to health restrictions, face-to-face classes were stopped. Faculty confront empty classrooms as COVID-19 surges. And for O, in some cases, we are tested by time. However, these tests should be considered as ways to find ourselves worthy of the greatest prize in the end. For W, due to the pandemic, online classes were adapted despite the difficulties. Those affected may look at this positively to find better answers instead of focusing on problems alone. And for E, how can we be empowered? Capacitating teachers through training workshops in coping with technology, mental health, and physical health. And for D, seek support from administration as well as local government units. Under the theme of optimistic, next slide, please. The participants identified 3 sub-themes. For sub-theme 1, hoping for better outcomes. This sub-theme detected the vaccination of the faculty, in which the respondents believe that better outcomes are coming through vaccination. For sub-theme 2, thinking of good results of the new styles. In this picture, the faculty adapts to the new normal. Although strategizing the online class is difficult, the faculty utilizes other equipment to do other things. According to the respondents, multitasking is the new normal. And picture 3, it depicts considering errors and an opportunity to improve. So if an internet error occurs, especially in the middle of online discussion, the faculty find alternatives to make learning happen. For next theme, go ahead, Ms.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. The third survival quality is the versatility of the teacher. This is the quality of being flexible and adaptive to the demands of time to achieve inclusive education, even for those learners who are remotely situated. I choose the best photo titled Signal Hinahanap-hanap Kita. Signal, I'm looking for you. So getting connected is critical for instruction and other related functions. If the signal is lost, that is not the end of the world. So look for a new place to find it. For the showed framework, teachers are in the school lobby trying to get a good signal and are collaborating with those with high-end gadgets to be able to get internet connections. What is happening here? Because of the pandemic, teachers' everyday life has greatly changed. Trainings, delivery of instructions, and even meetings are done online, which require high-end gadgets and stable internet connections. How does this relate to our lives? Adapting to change and pressures of time requires our versatility as teachers. Why does this trend or this problem exist? Teachers as catalysts of change and facilitator of learning should be capable of demonstrating flexibility in these trying times. How can we be empowered? Revising our ways of delivery and capacitate oneself with the technical and digital tools available to support delivery of instruction. What can we do to solve the problem? Attend trainings and webinars, especially trainings on teaching strategies in the new normal, and ask support from school administrators in building better internet infrastructures. Under this theme, we choose 3 sub-themes. One is exploring outdoors for better connection, lalaban at di susuko. So teaching is a noble profession, whatever and wherever it takes. So laban lang, basta naa lang jud signal. Second is adapting to online classes. The title is Digital Age. Anything buhaton in the name of love for the teaching profession. Age doesn't matter, basta teaching an issue. The third sub-theme is facing new normal heads-on. Superhero si teacher. Confusing at some point na magdungan ug attend on several meetings. We are doing multitasking. Adjust lang jud usahay, i-record na lang ang uban and review later.
Greetings to all. The next theme under the COVID acronym is I, which stands for inventive. It is the quality of putting creative concepts into tangible outputs by mixing and matching materials and strategies to make sure of the embedded delivery of instruction. So this photo here shows a set of computer with microphone and condenser on the table, a television on the side for monitoring, and a big comfortable chair. This actually presents the transition from face-to-face into online instruction, in which office is also modified into a makeshift classroom for online classes vis-a-vis meetings, trainings, seminars, and other online engagements. So all right, so how does this relate into our lives? This scenario is actually relatable to us in the sense that modification in a form of invention is necessary from time to time in our lives, especially in cases where we are pressed with disasters and calamities like the pandemic, where it is important for us to navigate in order to continue with our work. So what causes this issue? This is brought about by the sudden shift from face-to-face to online classes, wherein teachers face a huge problem on lack of gadgets and stable internet connection. However, the pandemic fueled also the teachers' inventiveness in finding solutions to present issues. Teachers can be guided in developing their inventive ability, provided that they are also given enough support, such as gadgets and strong internet connectivity. It is then that teachers' attention would be geared towards improving the quality of instruction rather than contemplating for means of holding online classes. So what can we do to solve the problem? So we need to seek support from the administrators and local government unit. Some themes include converting classrooms into recording studios. So this photo here is entitled My Classroom, My Studio. Respondent 3 said that I may not have the ideal setup, still I was able to get things done. Para-paraan ba jud na? Another sub-theme under inventive is holding virtual graduation or activities. This photo is entitled Behind the Scene. According to respondent number 5, yes, it was taxing, especially when we do not have access to professional equipment. Here, the last sub-theme is contextualizing materials for learners. This photo over here is entitled Instant YouTuber, see teacher. This is quoted from respondent 8. Not all students can attend the synchronous class. I don't want them to lag behind. That's why, though di na ko 40 ang pagka-influencer, I created a YouTube channel where I upload my recorded lectures. So to present the last theme, let me give you back to Dr. Ramos.
Okay, this is the last theme, devoted. This is all about retired teachers, retired but never tired. You will see our lives in public service now comes to an end, but never our will to serve if once called in the name of education. So you will see there the answers, responses in the under the showed framework. Sub-themes under this are the following. We have attending virtual necro for the love of the academe. Of course, we make special relationships while we work together. Thus, paying back the last tribute is the best we can do for the departed colleague. Here we talk about no storm can tear us apart, right? Together we stand and divided we fall. And then working beyond official time. So official time, never mind. In reality, the official time will never be enough. Sometimes the bed is a working station too. All right, so for call for personal action, we say salig or trust or have faith in English. That satisfy yourself with God's provisions, learn to grow the positive qualities, identify solutions instead of focusing on the problems, and give the best always as God takes care of the rest. For the social action, we say bakuna for COVID. The bakuna program is a psychosocial action for teachers under the pandemic. We call it back to basics, keep the faith, unload negativity, and then navigate life positively. With that, I would like to say thank you very much for your time listening to our presentation.
Thank you so much for a very interesting presentation.
Yes, before we
time.
answer some of the questions here, I want to highlight the strengths of this presentation. One is the team tried to make it to regionalize through the use of local language. Have you noticed that one? But of course, the translations, are provided. That's the strength of this study, because the point here is we want to show that this one is done by community members, by local people. Yes, so we will now proceed to the question and answer.
Yes, we have a number of questions, and I hope we will cover them or some of them.
Try to answer very fast.
Yes.
So how to organize, exhibit, and get the support of policymakers. In the first place, you go to the community, you ask permission from the community leaders, and you involve them in the photo presentation and interpretation. So you organize with key people in the community, and I showed to you the pictures. The photo exhibition should be attended by key people in the community. So in non-oppressive, non-critical issues, you can use photos, but it will not be photo voice. It will be simply photo elicitation, where you use photos to elicit data, especially when you are using children and to help them express their ideas. But photo voice, that's why it's called photo voice, because it's giving voice to people who otherwise are voiceless. Yes, I think that's the same question. You can use photos, but call it as photo elicitation. So confidentiality, it is difficult during data gathering. You cannot assure your participants of confidentiality, because during the photo exhibition, they can be seen by the community. So do not tell them that, your identity will not be divulged. They will be seen. The only confidentiality that you can assure your participants of is during the time of your presentation and during the time of your publication. During the time of your presentation, with regards to photos, if your participants, you can cover the eyes or you can blur them so that they cannot be identified. With anonymity, according to TOLIC, we can never claim anonymity, because based on definition, anonymity means nobody knows, only one person knows. In the case of research, that is not possible. The researcher and the participant know. So anonymity, according to TOLIC, is a misnomer. Yes, you can do this in your class, as long as you satisfy those provisions, like there is a problem, you consider your students as marginalized, they do not have a voice, and you want them to participate in identifying problems and solving problems. Yeah, that's why during the photo presentation and interpretation, you discuss will this photo bring harm or project the community or the persons involved in a bad light. Those are questions that you ask. And if you say yes, and in consultation with community leaders, you may decide not to show the photo. How do we balance the themes goals of the research between allowing the photo to express? The participants do not just take any photos. They take photos based on the relevance to the theme. And your theme is anchored on the research question. When I say theme of the photo taking, it is anchored on the research question. So there will be alignment. There's no way that your participants will be taking pictures that do not answer your research question. In the presentation, should verbatim statement? Yes, we put in the photo exhibition, we put the photo, we put there the title, we put the caption. The caption can be by the researcher, but you put a quote from your participants based on the showed framework. What are the issues in the validity that need to address? Validity means your study captures the reality. So what are the issues? Maybe if you are not careful and your participants will edit the photos so that the photos do not anymore project the reality. That can be one issue. But we have ways to ensure validity. Actually, in qualitative research, we call credibility. So we have triangulation. That's why in the modification, in the modified design, we introduce their in-depth interview and also observation as part of the triangulation measure. Who will provide the information? It's the participant. How is during the no, the showed framework is done during the photo presentation and interpretation with a group of people, small group or large group. During the showed framework, according to the design that we use, each participant presents one best photo where there's the title, the caption, and the showed framework, just as what the group did. Oh yes, we stage the photos during the photo exhibit. Maybe not all, because we choose only those as approved by the advisory committee and also by the participants and the researchers. Not really, there's none. It depends on the number of participants. If you have so many participants, like my daughter's participant, I think she had 55 participants, so she limited to every theme, best 5 photos. So
Dr. Arceli.
Yes.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Arceli, Professor Carty Joy Aguilion, and our group from Cebu Technological University, Dr. Ariel, Dr. Teresita, Dr. Melanie, and Ma'am Glinovo. Yes, Ma'am Maribel. Yes, thank you so much. So on behalf of the AQRA leadership team, I present the certificate to our speakers, Dr. Arceli Rosario, Professor Cartijoy Aguilion, Dr. Ariel Ramos, Dr. Teresita Leopolda Cerile, Dr. Melanie Albarracin, and Professor Maribel Glinogo. Wow, ma'am, that was a marathon of answers from you. A sprint of, not marathon, sprint of answers. You answered all the questions in the Q&A box. That's historic. Okay, at this time, we give the time to Dr. Pavel Zubkov to briefly present to you the answers. If you remember, in our last colloquium, we had Professor Erin York and Dr. Christine Schott, and they had a recorded presentations, and there were some questions that were not answered live. So Dr. Pavel sent the questions to them, and they gave the answers. Dr. Pavel.
Thank you. If you would like, okay, stop sharing. I will share now my presentation. I will start with one question that did not come to the presentation. if you please answer it. Okay, 1 second. Let me just, yeah, this way is better. From Dr. Lotz Gabasiani, what are the best practices in communicating and promoting the voices of the participants, especially when the findings and conclusions are sensitive and not so popular to politicians? I think this is an excellent question. Sometimes we have a controversy, and the people of power are not interested in promoting or in meeting the research agenda. So what would you say?
Dr. Pavel, is they still for Photovoice?
Yes.
Ah,
this is a question for me.
One best way to conduct the study is at least one of the team is an insider. You are part, you yourself is part of the community. Another one is if it is commissioned by the community. I mean, they themselves ask you to do that. But of course, you will never conduct a study in a community that's not welcoming to your study. They must be sold to your study at the very beginning, and you tell them that the end of this is a call for individual and community action. And in the case of my daughter, it was good because she was doctor to the barrios in that community, and the leaders there, local government units, I think were convinced that this is a good study. And so she was able, in fact, to implement all the policies before she left. So what can the best practices in the beginning, we share to them our what our study is about, what's the purpose, and what is the end of this one.
Thank you so much, Dr. Arceli. Now I'm going back to colloquium number 3, the last time, about fiction as findings as fiction. So there were several questions, and I will try to move it fast. And we will post this presentation in our AQRA Facebook group for you to read more carefully. Maybe there will be some of these who asked questions, they're not now with us. Dr. Lotz, when using fiction as a part of the literary art, when and how does the moment of truth, reality get revealed this research method? I'm trying to understand how it translates into usable outcomes. The answer is this. Literary art often contains moments of truth, reality, also called the big reveal. And at the conclusion of the story, findings may be layered in different chapters. For example, in my study, my media analysis portrayed certain demographics of students incorrectly in popular culture. I was able to showcase findings about who actually attends community colleges in the novel's text. Additionally, my study contains critical race theory as its methodology, so my main character has a racial awakening about the reality of race relations in the novel that culminates at the conclusion, just as we as researchers and our participants go through a journey within our research. Characters who may be based on our participants are also going on a journey for truths. Instead of listing our findings at the conclusion of a research article, however, we display those findings in fiction through scene, dialogue, action, and character reveals and observations at the end of work of literary art. So this is the answer. Another question from BJ Olitres, how do we locate fictions worthy for studying when where there are so many fiction being published? What criteria can we use? I recommend the ethnographic Eye by Carol Ellis as, or maybe ethnographic 1 by Carol Ellis as the premier novel that explores this topic. I also recommend Michael's Story by D.J. Connor. I have also enjoyed reading through arts-based dissertations. In 2019, the Association for the Study of Higher Education awarded an arts-based dissertation for the Bobby Wright Dissertation of the Year. A recent issue of the International Review of Qualitative Research contained several examples of art-based research. I also find that autoethnographies can help bridge the gap between this blend of science and art. Additionally, while authors like Ursula Guin, Octavia Butler, Samuel Delaney, and the like may not enter novels with clear scientific methods, they do answer questions of social cultural phenomena and push for social change. As such, they can be excellent models of writing fiction. I also recommend the craft book on creative nonfiction, Telltale's Slant by Brenda Miller and Susan Antonetta. It helped guide my own connections between fiction and social science methods. By Dr. Jim Weller, research helps us understand our world with a little more certainty. How do we find the connection between the resulting fiction and the data that inspired it? If we can't find the connection, how would research-inspired fiction differ from any other fiction? As social scientists, we are trying to find truths, lived realities that help us to understand social cultural phenomena, that helps us to navigate and explain the world in which we live. The best fiction can do the same thing. Both seek understanding, both search for truths, both often see transformation with participants. Only within fiction we call those characters not so different from composite characters, but that we use to protect participant anonymity. Fiction is simply one vessel for research findings, as is a traditional journal presentation. We are simply packaging the information differently. Consumers of popular culture are gleaning knowledge, often false, about subjects of which they may have little or no understanding. As researchers, considering arts-based methods of dissemination can help dispel these false knowledges packaged often by Hollywood and help broad audiences connect to, as you put it, reality instead of Hollywood's version of the world. Dr. Arceli, do we still have time? We have one more question. Actually, we have I think three or four more questions to answer.
Maybe what we can do is we will post this in our AQRA
Yes.
page.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
All right.